Hello, Florian.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
Very good. Good to talk to you. And we're speaking with Florian Zeller, who is the writer-director of The Sun, releasing in Australian cinemas in February, early February. Florian, welcome to Movie Metropolis. And my first question is, what was the inspiration behind the story of The Sun, which I know was a play first up?
Yeah, it was a play, as my previous film, The Father, was initially. And I wrote this play like 5 years ago, I would say 6 years ago. And I have to say that in the first place, it was probably coming from a personal experience. Not to say that I was just telling my own story, but it was about emotions that was familiar to me. But you're not making a film just to tell your own story, you need more. And what happened is that when we did the play, in Paris first and then in London, I was really surprised and moved to see the response of the audience, meaning that people were waiting for us after every performance, not to say congratulations, but really to share their own story. And it was as if something was starting, like a conversation, when the play was ending. And it was as if they were saying, I know what you're talking about. It's about a father, Hugh Jackman, trying to help his son, Nicholas, 17 years old, going through depression. And it was as if all these people, after every performances, were saying, I know what you're talking about because my daughter, or because my uncle, or because my nephew. And I really realized that almost physically that so many people are in this situation, especially as parents, when you do not know what to do anymore to help someone you care. And I knew that there is so much guilt and so much shame around these topics, mental health issues, that I really wanted to make a film to, let's say, to open a conversation about it.
Well, congratulations on that, because it's a very fine depiction of a difficult topic. I can imagine adapting the play to a screenplay, as you did with your Oscar-winning adaptation for The Father, must be quite a challenge to make it cinematic, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is not to film a play, because that's not very exciting, but I feel like every story requires something specific. When you think about adapting a play into a film, the first advice you get is always to write new scenes outdoor to make it feel more cinematic. But sometimes it's irrelevant. For The Father, for example, that we did with Anthony Hopkins 2 years ago, I made the decision to stay in the apartment, and to shoot the whole film in 2 or 3 rooms, because it was coherent with what I was trying to tell, and to use the set to put you, the viewer, in a maze, in a way, or in a labyrinth, to make you feel from the inside what it could mean to lose your bearings and to experience, let's say, a slice of dementia. Here, for The Sun, it was completely different, because the story, I would say, required something different. It was more linear, and because this is something I really wanted to do, to try to do something very straightforward and very simple in a way, because in order to reflect what was my approach, which was to try to face this pain without shying away.
Okay. You have a really good cast. Hugh Jackman is, as always, excellent. Vanessa Kirby, Dern, Anthony Hopkins, who returns, and Zen McGrath, who plays the teenager. Tell me about casting and working with your actors.
I mean, it started in a slightly unconventional way, because I was starting the process of casting this family. And this is Hugh Jackman who contacted me in the first place. He knew that I was working on the adaptation. He knew the play, knew my first film. And so he wrote me a letter to say, if you're already in conversation with someone, please forget my letter. But if you're not, I would love to have 10 minutes with you just to let you know why I should be the one to do that part. So I was really surprised to receive a letter like that from Hugh Jackman. We didn't know each other's. And of course, I met him, on Zoom 2 years ago. And I was not planning to make any decision. It was just a regular meeting. But I was already impressed by his courage and his humility and his honesty, I would say, just to write this letter. And after 10 minutes of that conversation, I stopped and I offered him the part because I felt strongly that he knew exactly what it was about. You know, he was so connected as a father and as a son to the emotions I wanted to explore, that I felt that it would be the opportunity for us just to explore what he has deep down as a human being, you know, that puts him in the first place in a position where I really wanted to do that part. And he's such an extraordinary actor, of course, but also human being. That's something quite unique. He's so beautiful and open-minded and open-hearted that it was really a special journey to shoot that film with him. He was really brave enough to not to try to create a character, to build backstories and to feel protected by that, but he accepted just to try to allow himself to be himself in front of the camera in order to be as honest and as truthful as possible. So it was like a real joy. And then I composed my whole family. And in the end, I was just looking for that boy who was supposed to be this depressed teenager. And I met many actors on Zoom as well. I mean, I received a lot of tapes, people from the US, people from the UK, and a few from Australia. And one of them was Zen McGrath. He was from Melbourne. And as soon as I saw his video, I knew that he would be the one, despite the fact that in COVID time, it was difficult to have someone from Australia for travels, despite the fact that, you know, it would be like an accent challenge as well to pretend that he was from New York. But despite everything, I had that strong conviction that he would be extraordinary. And I still do feel that he is extraordinary in the film. He's like an angel in pain. He's like very strong and weak at the same time. There is like such an extraordinary opacity about his soul. I mean, I was very impressed by him.
Well, congratulations on that, because he is very good, and so is the rest of your cast. Where was the film shot, and how, as you say, it was shot during COVID time? What were the challenges there?
So the story takes place in New York, and I should not say that because it took us so much effort to pretend that we were in New York. But the truth is that we shot most of the film in London. For COVID reasons, but also for money reasons. I mean, we were in studios in London, and it was like a real challenge because, you know, it was exactly when in the UK, everybody was like, COVID doesn't exist anymore. It was last year. And we were in a bubble, very strict bubble. And it created like a real sense of intimacy between all of us, because we were like a few group of people on set trying to tell that story that was meaningful to us. So it was like a very intimate moment. So the challenge was to make sure no one would be hurt. I mean, that everyone was safe. And also because it was a small independent movie, to try to make sure that we would complete the film.
Well, congratulations on doing all of that. How influential was winning the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay for The Father in perhaps making The Son and now hopefully more films for you?
I mean, it was somehow virtual because it was in 2020, 2021. Everything was virtual, but on the other hand, it was very concrete because he helped me to finance The Son. I guess because of what it is about, it would have been harder, maybe difficult to finance this film. So after the Oscars, I received many offers, you know, to do other films, but nothing was interesting to me because I really wanted to tell that story. Not only because I felt connected to that story, but also because I thought that it was a story that needed to be told, because there are so many people, you know, in pain, and so many people, so much ignorance, and so much, as I said, guilt and shame that I really, really wanted, or I really, really felt the necessity to tell that story. So thanks to the Oscars, it happened.
Okay, well, that's very, very interesting to hear that. And as you're already saying, the film has been released worldwide, I think, and it's having an impact and an influence on audiences. Are you getting much feedback?
Yes, that's the joy of cinema, right? Is to share things and emotions. And when The Father came out, as I said, it was at the middle of COVID, so it was more difficult to feel that. And now it's a joy to be able to attend and to share things like that with the audience. What I feel is that, I mean, a lot of people are struggling, with this kind of issues, especially now after COVID. There is another epidemic about mental health crisis, and I made a decision to make that film before COVID, so there is no direct connection here. But I think that we are in a world where there are more and more people struggling with pain. So I think we need to talk about it. We need to feel comfortable talking about it. And we need to feel comfortable watching films about it, because that's the only way to help each others.
Okay. Now, I know you've written a number of plays, and I've also seen one of your earliest films that you wrote, The Other Woman, that Daniel Ortega stars in, and he also directed. How have you found that transition from playwright to filmmaker?
Somehow it was a bit like the continuity, of it, because it's true that I come from theater, and I've been, it has been my life for 15 years to be, in a theater working with actors. But making films is the continuity, meaning that it's also working with actors, trying to tell stories and to share emotions with the audience. So it was not like a jump into the unknown for me. And I was lucky enough to do these films with actors that I profoundly love and admire. And that's why for me, the heart of everything, to share this with the actors. And this is something that comes from theater, from my stage experience, I would say.
Sure. So tell me, in making or in writing The Father and now writing The Son, were there any particular filmmakers or films that perhaps may have also inspired you?
Oh, it's hard to tell. There are many films that inspired me in general, not necessarily for this film in particular, but I would say that there is a filmmaker that I often think of. This is David Lynch, because I remember when I first discovered his film Mulholland Drive, to be very stricken by how he tells a story. I mean, the specific form of his narrative, which is to tell a story as if it was a puzzle, and to leave it to the audience, and the viewer has to play with all the pieces of that puzzle to try to make it work, to try to make it meaningful, and to leave a room for the audience, to be in an active position. And that's something that really, really impacted me, I would say, not only in my filmmaking, but also in my writing in general.
How very interesting to hear that. So now with The Son on release in Australia, are you already writing another play or another film?
Not yet. I'm just, the film is about to release, as you said. And, this is like in real life, we are children. There is a moment when you have to accept to let it go and to let them live their own life. And this is where I am now with that film. And I hope that as soon as I will be like in that position, I will have room in my brain to think about what next, but not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So Florian, I'm very interested in your background. Tell me, what was the influence behind you becoming a writer in the first place?
Oh, it's hard for me to tell. What I can say is that when I started writing, my dream was to be a novelist, and I started writing novels for several years, and I discovered theater almost by accident. And It's like falling in love with someone, I fell in love with theater, with that experience, with the extraordinary mystery of live performances, the mystery of performing, of acting, and the beauty and the simplicity of what is happening in a theater room, which is the sharing of the emotion, the beauty of what is invisible. And it really, really took the whole space of my life for years. And at the same time, very quietly, this desire to make films started to grow and to grow, but I really wanted to do it only when I would have no choice, that when it would be like vital. And it became clear that it would be the father, but it took me like almost 4 years to make that happen, to write it, but also to find my actors. But even when Anthony Hopkins told me yes, it took me 2 years to find the money and to make it work. So it's a long journey. It's a difficult one. I think it's good that it is not easy, because it's a way to test your desire and your necessity. And that's it.
Okay, that's a great explanation. And of course, your background is French, but you're now very much international. How have you found that, I suppose, in a sense, a transition from your French background to the international stage?
Oh, I'm still French, of course, and
Yeah.
French is my first language, as you can hear. But no, it's true that thanks to theater, I worked a lot in many countries in other languages, and I really loved, discovering new ways or different ways to work, but also to dream and to produce. And so I was kind of familiar with the idea of working in another language. And I have to say, I like it very much, not to be completely comfortable, because especially when you're on set shooting a film, when you cannot rely completely on your ability to be, to explain and to talk and to blah, blah with anyone, you have to be even more precise about what you want, or even more precise about what you're looking for. And so to me, not working in French forced me to be very clear with my thoughts. And I think that it was an opportunity somehow to do that. And now I feel very good about being uncomfortable.
I like that. I like that. As a previous Oscar winner, Florian, are you a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Aha. So you must have found the Oscar voting this year very interesting.
The what's already?
The Oscar voting for the Oscars this year.
Yeah, I mean, as last year, I mean, that's fantastic to be part of the community and to be, it's a privilege to watch films and to share opinions about it. So I'm grateful for that, for sure.
Okay. I won't ask you to say who you voted for or anything like that. That's fine. And as you already said, you're not specific about a film that you're working on next. But look, congratulations on The Sun, which is releasing in Australia, and I look forward to your future films, Florian.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Florian Zeller.